Welcome everybody. There's still 3 seats at the front. Come on, I'm not gonna bite anybody. Welcome to the QA Meetup, Ljubljana. My name is Igor, and this company here is d.labs, which I'm a part of. The idea of this meetup came after the Quest for Quality conference. I wonder how many of you have been to the Quest for Quality. Well, 3 people actually. 4. It doesn't count. The Quest for Quality was a conference organized, I think it was October last year, for QA experts and DevOps. Half of the people attending were for Comtrade because they organized the event. It was a cool event, but the problem I had with it was very automation focused. So it was large companies explaining how to do testing in large companies. However, we are not a large company. I think we're about 60 people now, something like that, 50 developers, 5 testers. So we don't qualify as large company. So for us, automation testing, as I'll explain a bit later, is not the best thing in the world. I'll explain it later. So my coworkers and I decided to have started a meetup in Ljubljana, as nobody else is doing it, just to basically exchange some ideas, start talking, get to know the community, get to see, maybe get some new testers involved, some people who don't know what testing is. It's a fun profession, by the way. It's a very fun profession. And to basically just exchange ideas, problems, suggestions, anything, just knowledge sharing, basically. The event, we are going to try to organize it roughly about once every 2 weeks, 2 months, sorry, once 2 months. However, if we get any more ideas.
Speak louder.
What, you can't hear me? Okay, I'll try to speak louder. If we get any more ideas, we are going to organize it more often. If you have any suggestions, please let us know. If you got a problem, let us know. We'll do some research. We like to research stuff. So that's pretty much it. The topic of today is the many roles of QA, since testing is not the only thing QA is doing or should be doing. For that purpose, we are going to have 3 talks. Neven Matas from Infinum is going to have using QA every step of the way. I'm going to have the product dev QA triangle, and Sandra is going to have business and testing. What do both have in common? And now, Neven, please.
Thank you.
Go around. Yeah, that's gonna work.
Okay.
I'm gonna.
Okay, this works. Hi everyone. So the topic of my presentation is using QA every step of the way. My name is Neven Matas. I come from Zagreb, from a company called Infinum. We have somewhere around 100 employees. Most of them work in Zagreb, but we have offices also in Ljubljana, in Varaždin, and in San Francisco. So we're an independent design and development agency, and our main focuses are design, development for mobile and web. So we do Android and iOS apps and web applications. If anyone's interested, we do web in our backend team is a Rails team, so we mostly do Rails. We have one guy doing .NET, but all the others are on Ruby. We have a large design team, and we also have a QA team, which I'll speak more about later. So most of our clients come from abroad, actually, not from Croatia or Slovenia. We do have clients from both of these countries, but most of them are based either in Europe or in the United States. Some of them also in Australia, but I wasn't really aware of that. We've been around for around 11 years, done over 500 projects, and know a thing or two about software development, design, and testing. Here are some of the clients we've worked with. Probably recognize some of them, at least Samsung, Nokia, I don't know, Erste, Raiffeisenbank, and others. This is just a short list in order to illustrate that we don't just work with domestic clients. We also work with international clients from abroad. Some are large companies, some are startups. So we basically cover the entire spectrum. This is the QA team, which is actually missing 2 members. One of them is here, the newest guy. Igor. My Photoshop skills are pretty bad, so I didn't really want to sort of paste their picture somewhere around here. I didn't have a chance to get a photo. So there's 6 of us. 2 people actually joined in the last 4 weeks, and that's because we're starting to recognize that quality assurance is not just some sort of buzzword, but that it really helps get things going and gets the result we're expecting, and our clients are really expecting. So why am I even going on with this presentation? Is because Infinum focuses on quality. This is sort of our main selling point, the point on which we stand out from the rest of the crowd in Croatia is that we don't just go for quantity, for 1 billion projects, for 1 billion people, done fast, cash taken to the register, and we're done. We really try to communicate with people, with our clients as much as possible in order to deliver, I would say, top-notch applications, which are getting better and better with each passing year. So, as I already said, if you want great products, if you want to create great software, deliver great software, and maintain great software, sooner or later you will realize you will need a great quality assurance team, which is knowledgeable, which has technical skills, which has people skills, and which can really push things forward, I believe. So, some of the things companies often do wrong in this regard is having no QA team. I mean, there are plenty of companies in Croatia, smaller ones, but also some bigger ones, that don't really care. They employ as much developers as possible. The developers do all the testing. Maybe there's one guy sitting in the corner with a laptop clicking away, but no one really cares about him, or in the basement or whatever. And they're doing things wrong. I believe this is the wrong thing to do, because when developers start testing their own code, things really start going down the drain. So because they get blind about the bugs they're creating. So this is the first mistake and the biggest one. If companies that have no QA teams, if you look at their products, they'll usually be sort of beta versions released to production, I would say, at least. Another issue or problem that some companies sometimes have is testing too little. They sort of have a QA team, but they code the entire thing, and then the testers get it, and then they have like I don't know, a couple of days to go through it, and the thing is done. But this is much better than having no QA team at all, but also not really enough in order to get the desired result. Another problem is testing too late. So if for instance you're doing a 6-month project with a month of design and 5 months of development, there's no way in the world you'll deliver a great product after these 6 months and on time if you start testing a couple of weeks or even a month or two before it's supposed to be released. So you should start testing as soon as possible. And another thing which is actually closely related to the last one is testing the wrong things at the wrong times. So another thing that also happens is that various design issues, usability problems get into the application, and it's at the point the QA team gets the release candidate, it's too late to change anything, because it would require too much it would require changing the code, going through the design process again. It would just take too much time, effort, and money in order to fix it. So the testers basically find the bugs, some of the bugs are fixed, and that's it. So you really have to know when to test what, and test all the time. So when you do it incorrectly, you get things looking like this. I mean, this is an exaggeration, of course, but it's just to prove a point. A thing you can get is you can get a product which has too many features, which is unusable. So it might not have any bugs or any functional problems, but it will have usability issues, because I mean, no single QA person would ever let something like this into production. I mean, again, this is just an exaggeration. So is this, even though I think this is an actual application. It's an app which probably works. It might be tested well. It might run smoothly, but in the end, it's not good, and it won't do great on any market because it's just too complicated, too complex. And once the user sees it, he'll uninstall it in like 30 minutes. So all the good work gone into the development will basically go down the drain. Another issue which might happen, you might have a great application which is designed well and implemented sort of well, but wasn't tested enough in all different circumstances and tested in each context on plenty of devices, and you get apps crashing or having other faults. which people will also after 30 minutes uninstall and push down the drain. For instance, if you download a financial application which crashes when you try to send someone money, the person will first panic and then uninstall it and forget it forever, tell all of their friends it sucks. The company that made it, Infinum or d.labs, sucks, and they should never install anything that came from them. So you get a bad reputation for crashing apps, bad quality, and basically your business starts going down the drain. Why? Well, because your users get frustrated. I mean, that's exactly the thing. I mean, each of us probably encountered apps which cause some amount of frustration. Some apps cause a little frustration, some cause a lot. But you, as a quality assurance engineer, should basically take care of the fact that this never happens. That your users get so mad and so angry they start posting hateful comments on the Play Store and telling everyone you're a terrible company and the application sucks. Why? I mean, I don't really care about whether he gets angry or not. I care about this. I mean, in the end, the client will be pissed off because his user base is pissed off. You will get fired from your project. No one will want to work with you again, and you will be left on the street programming for food, or in my case, doing QA for food, which is not a good thing. So what's the main goal of all of this? It's standing out in a tough market. You probably know the situation is similar in Slovenia and in Croatia, but we basically do work with people from around the world, that it's a tough market out there. Our clients, especially startups, really don't have all the time in the world in order to succeed, and if you start out with a bad application in a tough market with plenty of competition, you won't make it. You will never make it because too many people are doing software development, too many people are in IT, and too many people are investing a lot of money in order for a bad app to be successful. So you really have to be, you can either be the best or go home. That's basically the idea. So the imperative of the entire process should sort of be to keep the retention rates up. So the retention rates is that people install your app and actually enjoy using it, have fun using it, like the way it looks, keep it on their phones, and sort of invest their time into it. Why? Because people have too many choices and will abandon bad software immediately. I mean, maybe they won't abandon their banking applications, but even this is starting to happen. People will leave the bank if the bank has bad software. In my case, in my situation, this was actually the case. So I was in a bank for 5-6 years. Its mobile banking application was terrible. We didn't make it, of course. I'm kidding. It was terrible, and after a while, I just gave up. I went to the bank, I closed my account, went to another bank that has a better app, and that's it. And that started to happen more and more. People won't be chained to anyone if they have bad software because they encounter software every day in their lives and want it to be a good experience. And when we're talking about experience, of course, we're talking about UX, which is sort of this big philosophical topic. It's basically very abstract, and people philosophize about it in various articles. I don't know, but it's basically very simple. You do user experience, I don't know, testing every day when you download an app or you use an app, and if you say in your head, "Oh, this sucks," it's bad user experience, and if you say, "Oh, this is great, I really enjoy this makes me happy," then it's good user experience. There's not much more to it. I mean, you can write tons of books about it, but it's all about the end user enjoyment, I would say. This is the old honeycomb of things that make up great user experience, and only doing software testing and just finding bugs will maybe take care of some of these. This is all user experience, or one big thing. Doing just software testing will maybe take care of usability, maybe. It might take care of desirability, but all of the other things are sort of left with these big question marks. So who is responsible in order to make your product usable, useful, desirable, valuable, accessible, etc. So my whole premise and idea is that the QA team can do a lot in order to push forwards in all of these categories and not just make software sort of bug-free or less bug-ridden. Of course, in software development, there are plenty of things that can go wrong. I mean, you have these constraints of time and budget, so you don't have an endless all the time in the world in order to test your app. You don't have all the money in the world to create your app. So you always have to prioritize and stay sort of within the frame of time and budget, and the fact that humans are often error prone and that developers will create mistakes, designers will create mistakes, your project may be badly led, and you may not find bugs, and you may not do other things that you should be doing because you're error prone too. So you should always take into consideration all the things that can go wrong and may in the end result with an app which doesn't have good user experience. I really like this Dilbert comic, so I have two of them in the slide. This one just illustrates the relationship sort of your boss may have with you or with other people on the team, because what bosses do, they often demand things yesterday and working great. So how long will it take to fix any problems found in our beta product? Of course, as all testers know, it's logically impossible. You cannot prove that there are no bugs, and it's impossible to know which bugs will come up when. So the only thing you can do is fix the problems before you find them, right? Which is sort of this absurd situation, which is impossible. So this is all about the demands you get from above and what you can do as a software tester. I mean, you really have to prioritize, and in order to satisfy everyone, but also satisfy the quality of the apps. This is a nice quote. It might even sound a bit grandiose, but I like it because it really illustrates the job best. So it says that most projects we're doing are more like driving a truck off-road, as you probably know, in the mountains and at night. So it's a pretty hard horror-like situation, and these projects need someone to lead them. I mean, as the tester, you do light the way, and this is what I really believe, and that companies often don't understand, is that the QA team can be the leading force between a project and not just someone who gets left at the back, clicking away and doing nothing else. And I'll try to illustrate as we go along why this is so. I call this sort of the digital entomology myth. So entomologists are people who study insects, right? People in various companies or in the industry often think that QA teams are digital entomologists. They just find bugs, write them down, report them somewhere, and their job is then done. I believe chasing the latest bug is actually not your strong suit. It's not the only thing you should be doing. It's definitely something you should be doing, and you should be doing well, and you should be doing it fast. But it's not the only thing you should be doing, and if it is the only thing you should be doing, it's probably wrong. So your role is sort of three-part. I would say you are non-partisan, because you shouldn't be answering or sort of diving under anyone's demands. If your boss yells at you to close all the defects, say all the bugs are okay so we can ship the product, you should not listen to him. You should stop it. So you should stop the release. You should do whatever you can in order to not deliver a bad thing to a client. So you shouldn't sort of cover under pressure, go like this, okay, there are no bugs. You should never be doing this. Also, you're a facilitator, so you're helping your team connect all the team members, however big your team is. It might be 3 people or 30 people, connecting and sharing the information among everyone and sort of helping them in the end get a good product. Whether this means getting the necessary resource for them, getting the designs, talking to the client in order to get some information they might know, getting stuff about the API, whatever it is, you should be helping people do something. So this is a big part of your job, and this is something I do every day, is basically run around talking to people and saying, oh, we agreed on this, why did you do it that way? And the more you do it, the easier the entire process becomes. And lastly, you should sort of be a quality evangelist. I mean, this sounds a bit scary, but what you should be doing, instilling into your team sort of this notion that if you don't create quality apps, we all get fired and lose our jobs and go work in agriculture or something else. So the old myth is that QA is here to stop things from going on. My idea is that QA is here to help and actually speed things along if you do it right. Another important thing I would like to sort of mention is that your client should never be finding issues. And when I say issues, I don't just mean bugs. It's various things that can come up. If for instance, they pull up a beta version of the application and they don't know how to log in, for instance, even though the login works. Your client should never experience this sort of trauma, because if your client does experience it, he will be unhappy, and the trust between you and the client will sort of shrink. And the more it happens, the more issues your client finds, the more the trust shrinks, and the entire project becomes slower or more difficult to handle. In order to avoid this, you should be the driver towards quality. Not just the guy scribbling down bugs and yelling at people, not just the guy who describes when apps crash, not just the guy who finds all these ridiculous edge cases. I don't know, if you enter 5 million characters, the app crashes when every second user doesn't know how to log in. So you should always know what is important and what is just your own silliness, which doesn't really matter that much. I mean, you should find bugs, you should report bugs definitely, but you should drive towards quality apps and not just report silly bugs that pretty much piss people off and will be left in the backlog in any case. You have much more important work to do. So how do you do it? My idea is something I'm going towards in the last couple of months is sort of that you should basically question everything. But you're sort of the philosopher of IT. Whichever situation arises, you should be the guy with his hands in the air and asking questions. Why did we do it like this? Why is this supposed to work like that? This sort of questioning always brings up interesting discussions, and things get solved much faster and in the end become much better. Because if everyone stays silent and no one drives towards sort of this quality mechanisms, the app will be shit in the end, right? So your main sort of focus should be to question things and then act upon them. And I'll sort of try to describe some ways in which you can do this. Let me just get back to the whole idea. So, of course, testing is the core part of your job is finding defects in the product, and I mean a software product written with bugs won't be good, and this is something you should take care of. And this is probably something all of you know if you work in QA and you do it all the time. So this thing is covered. I don't really care about this thing for this presentation because you all know how to find bugs. There are various tools, there are various methods. You know all about it. My whole idea is that you should expand sort of your horizon if you're not doing it already towards quality control, which also sort of is more focused on the product, but even wider to quality assurance, which is focused both on the product and on the processes that lead to it. So you should sort of start finding bugs in the way you create apps, and not just start finding bugs in the apps. Because if you don't do that, then you'll be with each passing project you'll be encountering the same issues over and over again, and you'll be wasting a lot of time, money, effort, patience, trust, and everything else. Okay, so the first thing you can do is question the process. This is the old waterfall thing. I really hope that none of you do it like this or exactly like this. I really hope you do something which is a little less 1970s, or I don't know. So if you do it like this, if it's a clear linear flow waterfall, your entire sort of life, your entire job is in this little orange box called testing and integration. So look at how many things happen before the final product comes to you. If you do it like this, you can do nothing to influence the quality of the app. You can only sort of find a couple of bugs and ship it away, and already you're forgotten here. So the main point is that you should be present in all of these. And if you are, your apps will start looking better and better. So this is just an illustration. Don't really care about what's written here because it's not important. The illustration is here in order to show you that firstly, it should never be linear like this. It should be sort of iterative and circular. Things should go round and round in iterations, and the quality assurance team should be present in each possible case. So even when the project is getting planned, even when the requirements are gathered, the design is done, you should be present. Okay. One thing you can do is, at the very beginning, is question the specs. Some clients are insane, right? They have requirements that cannot be met. They have design ideas which look good only to them, and you are certain that these things would never look good on the App Store or on the web, and that they look terrible and everyone will hate them. But your client is really stubborn and focused on the idea. What you can do in this situation, in the very beginning of the project, is really try talking to a client and talk them out of stupid ideas, right? Here's another Dilbert for this. So you get a client and he says, oh, I want these 400 features. I want 10 buttons on this screen. I want things animating, going all over the place. I don't know. I want a form which has 35 fields that should be inputted all together. I mean, there are probably a lot of examples you could point out yourselves. And of course, you as the QA person should see it immediately, like it's sort of blinking in your face that no human would be able to use a product which is that complex or that stupidly designed. And your client will usually say this, okay, it should also be easy to use, right? So you should have the 400 features and be easy to use, and then your mind explodes and you give up your job and go work in agriculture or something. But you shouldn't give up. You should stay focused and stubborn and really talk to the client. Show them applications that Apple is making, and tell them, look, Apple would never do this, and they will immediately go, oh, you're right, maybe we should remove these couple of things, and then things sort of start rolling. Okay, once you get the specs done, your design team, we have like 10 designers, they're all great people, but they also make mistakes sometimes, and you should really talk to them. from the get-go, question the design and try iteratively to get to a good thing in the end. We use Invision. Invision is really a great thing. It really saves our lives sometimes. They put up some sort of wireframe or a UI layout, and then we leave these little comments and say, okay, this button is silly, people won't know what it does, add a label here, what does this even do, stuff like that. Then they respond, they get angry, then we buy them a chocolate or a beer or something, then they change it, then it goes through a couple of iterations, we talk to other team members, and in the end we get a slightly polished design. And QA already did a lot during this process and nipped a lot of things in the bud. Why? Because plenty of bugs happen because the designer really didn't think of something, and the developer also didn't think of something, because the developer often does what he's told, unfortunately, doesn't think about it, writes his code and goes home. And if the designer didn't think about it, it's already too late when you get the app in your hands. So you can talk to the designer and ask him, okay, have you sketched out the empty states? What happens if this list is empty? Is it just an empty screen? This will look ugly. So cover the empty states, right? What about the transitions? What happens when I click here and get to the other screen? Does it come from above? Is it a modal? Is it something else? Think about it, right? What about the validations? What if I have a login form and I enter a silly password, or I enter 1,000,000 characters, or I try doing something else? Will there be any sort of message anywhere? How will you show the message to the user? Have you thought of that? Do that. How about various screen sizes, platforms, orientations? Is mobile covered at all? I mean, you guys are doing web. If you're doing any sort of consumer app that will be used by humans and not by some CMS team just entering content, you will want something which is responsive and looks good on mobile devices. So what if your designer was sort of too lazy to cover mobile and even sketch out those screens and adapt them to the mobile sort of platforms? You get a real nasty situation, because looking at desktop designed web apps on your mobile phone is terrible, and people don't uninstall it but just close it and go somewhere else. So these are all the things you can cover before any code is written, and imagine how many bugs you could even avoid wasting time on if you just sit with the designer a couple of times and ask him a series of good questions. Once the design is done, you can also question the implementation, and I won't go on about this too much, because this is something you all know. I mean, this is the part people actually do all the time. I'll just throw out a couple of pointers. So you should test fresh out of the oven. I'm working on a project right now where I'm really trying to push for a process of testing immediately. So when the developer does even a single thing, I don't know, tabs, just 3 tabs on the screen and transitioning between them, I immediately get to his desk and tell him, here's my phone, give me the app. And I look at it immediately. This is good because you don't waste time reporting things all over the place. You tell him, okay, this is not centered, this is too glitchy, this doesn't work, and he fixes it immediately, and you speed up the entire thing, and it goes faster. Also, you get the designer into the mix, because designers really have an allergy for things not looking right. Maybe you don't see the problems, but the designer will. So you call the designer like, hey, come here, look at this thing he just made. Does this look like shit? If it does, tell him what he has to do. Put some padding here, margins here, nicer tabs, I don't know, whatever it is. If you get this collaboration going, your app will be delivered much faster, bugs will be fixed much sooner, and things will start rolling. Another person you can basically nag is the client. So if even you don't know what the acceptance criteria are, or the development team doesn't know, the client is supposed to know, or if he doesn't know, he should decide. So if in any situation you don't know how the app is supposed to work, just ask the client. And if no one asks him, the app won't work correctly, and you'll be unable to validate that it does work. So nag the client. Ask them, call them, send emails. What about this? What about that? We need a decision here, 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 and here. I would suggest we do it like this. So you can do this all the time as well. And about the actual testing thing, I won't go on too much about it. So you should update your test cases, of course. If you get sick, ill, or go on a vacation and someone else fills in your shoes and you have no test cases, they will basically be in the blind. You will leave them in darkness, and they will sort of be like this, trying to test the app and don't know what's going on. So you should write your test cases, update them as the app goes along, and that's basically it. This is just common sense. You should do smoke tests often, because developers also tend to change things all of a sudden, and the regression bugs appear and your app sort of starts crashing where it always used to work. And you should never let the client sort of get this version of the application scratches on login or on installation, because you sort of start getting a bad reputation. Of course, you do smoke tests often and run full test suits when sort of milestones are reached. So whenever we are sending an update to the App Store, especially if it's a critical application like a mobile banking application, we run through the entire app. We update a previously activated app on all possible Androids 4, 5, 6, 7, on iOS 8, 9, 10. We go through all the features, because the worst possible thing you want to run into is people updating the app, and then their sort of mobile banking starts crashing. They have to go to the bank, ask for the token again. They get really pissed off. They start losing money. And this is basically done, it's your fault in the end if you haven't found it. So if you're updating the app, run full test suites. And test on a broad range of devices. I won't even go into this because it's too obvious. One thing that Igor mentioned and was really discussed a lot on the Quest for Quality conference is automation. We actually did start doing some automation, but we're not doing it on all possible projects because it's impossible, because there's 6 of us and it takes a hell of a lot of time. But it's actually not a bad thing. This is sort of just a diagram of how Appium works, and we started using Appium. It's not really important. I won't go into it. But it's a great thing to cover all of those repetitive tasks. So for instance, if you have a form in your application, as a tester, you'll be filling it out manually maybe thousands of times, and that gets boring. If you write something like this, you can run it on 10 devices immediately and go grab a cup of coffee while the test is running and you're happy. So if you have enough resources, you should invest in automation at one point, because it can't replace a tester, but it can really benefit and help the QA team a lot. Save some time for the important stuff. And one of the last things, once the app is I don't know, nearing the finishing stages, you can always question the improvement. So you can look at these graphs, you can create them on your own. Jira, I think, exports it, Rally exports it, and now all these other tools do it. So you can look at how your team is progressing, if there's more bugs each sprint, if there's less bugs each sprint, how many of them are crucial, how many of them are sort of just cosmetic stuff that isn't really that important. And if you see a negative trend, then probably something in the process is bad and you should act upon it. And the last thing you should question is the end result, because once the app gets released wherever, on the web or on the Play Store, you should question the end result. Why? Because the app's life cycle doesn't end once the 1.0 or 1.1 build is released. While it's out there, and it's sort of your obligation to take care of it. So one thing you can do is talk to people and do some usability testing or user testing. You don't have to spend a lot of money doing it. Just find a person working on a different project. Find someone who isn't even in IT from your company. Give them the app and give them 10 minutes and give them 3 structured questions and let them accomplish a task. For instance, register, log in, and buy a ticket for a concert, and see what they do and record what they're doing. And if you figure out they can do a single simple action from the start, then something is wrong. I mean, actually, you should be doing this during the entire process, but projects vary, and sometimes it's not always possible. But at some point, you should do it. You should really start doing it, because if you don't, you'll get apps made by testers and developers for testers and developers, and those are not your audience. The audience is the common person that doesn't really know a lot about IT, about applications, layouts, guidelines, design, or anything. So you should talk to real people and see what happens, and adjust accordingly. So if they can't do a single thing, raise some panic and start changing things. And even if they leave bad comments, you as a QA person, maybe it's not your job, it's more like customer support, but you can extract great bugs from these customer reports, because people will sometimes, people are smart, okay? They will leave comments like, if I do this, this, and that, my app crashes. So this is basically a bug report you get for free. You take it out of the Play Store, you give it to the developer, you send a nice reply, being all charming, saying, I'm really sorry about that, we'll fix it in the next update. And in the meantime, the customer is happier, and the bug gets fixed in the next update, and everyone is happy. So don't disregard your users; they're important. And to sort of wrap it up, I mean, this sounds very simplistic, but basically your whole job should be about attending all the meetings, knowing all the people working on the project, knowing the client, questioning everything they're doing, all of the processes, all of the resources, all of the decisions, and being proactive about them. So whenever you think something is wrong, talk to someone and try to change it a little bit. It might be the smallest thing in the world, but a lot of small things lead up to one big good one. And of course, the thing that sort of stays the same, it should be finding bugs. But it's not the only thing you should be doing. Why? Because the consumer software market is really competitive, and people expect all of these things from their applications. They expect them to be stable, pretty easy to use. They want them to make them happy and make their life easier and solve some sort of problem. And usually quality assurance teams only take care of stability, and the good teams may take care of them being easy to use. But all of these other things are really out of their scope. But I think they should be caring about all of these 5 things as much as they can. And that's it. Thank you. I talked fast. Any questions?
I have one question.
Yes.
Hi. My question would be, how you communicate with the customers and also internal designers when you think that the application should look differently, and they said no, this is the way. You suggested a few things, but
Yeah.
I think if you tell them straight away, I'm not sure they will be so much happy.
No, you have to be smart about it. So you obviously won't tell your customer or client they're stupid and don't know what they want. The best thing is to be honest about it, right? So your designers are professionals. They're people who studied at graphic universities, at design universities, and they have arguments. So if you run into some issues, you can sort of point out, if we do it like this, people won't know how to use it. I mean, if you implement a list, a form this long, people will really have a hard time doing it. And you tell to the customer, we can do it that way, that's no problem. But if we do it this way, and you then suggest a different way, a better way, it will be better. And some clients will be very stubborn and insist that it's done in the first way, and eventually you'll have to do it because, you have to do it as they say. But if you suggest a better thing, or 2 better things, or give them 3 alternatives, which is something we always do. When we suggest a design to the client, we give them 3 or 4 possible screens. And then they look at it, and then they sort of give their comments, and we try to work out the best possible solution for everyone. So they had an original idea, and we changed it a little bit, and then they said, okay. And then we changed it a little bit and gave them a couple of alternatives. They liked it. And then bit by bit, you sort of try to convince them that you know what you're doing. And you have to be really smart about it, really I'll give a lot of alternatives, have good arguments. And in the end, if your customer or client is cool, they'll go with it. If not, okay, what can you do about it? You do it the way they want.
And if you do it the way they want, and at the end they see that maybe it wasn't the best idea, what do you do?
Then you just say, okay, give us another 3 months and we'll do it the way we initially wanted, and you'll pay us for it. You have to insist, but at some point you don't want your customer to run away. You insist as much as you can. I insist, the designer insists, and if the client is just too stubborn and doesn't see the issue, it's in the end we're doing it for them. We're doing our best to do it well.
Thank
you. You were talking before that as a QA you need to help your team to help them with the resources, to talk to the customer if they have any problems. Isn't this the job of a Scrum Master?
Yeah, it is.
Basically, you're doing 2 roles, a QA and a Scrum Master.
It is. The Scrum Master should do it more, but it doesn't mean that you shouldn't be doing it at all. The person that knows most, I think, about the project is often the tester, because he's living with it. If I'm testing the same application 6 hours per day. I'm in all the meetings. I know all the things. I know how everything works, sort of, and how it should. I know how it should work, and I can really help people with some issues that the Scrum Master just doesn't know. The Scrum Master doesn't know every single screen and every single detail and every single place that it goes wrong, and I do. And whenever I can do something the Scrum Master can, I do it.
In your case, do you have a Scrum Master, or do you take both roles?
Depends on the project. Sometimes we can't allocate for a Scrum Master. If the project has 5 people in it and it's 3 developers, 1 designer, and 1 QA guy, then you sort of take his role. It depends on the if the project has a Scrum Master, I do less of that and more of other things. But I don't think you should sort of be stubborn about it and say I won't do the Scrum Master's role. I think it's a great role, and if you can help out, you help out.
In your experience, do these 2 roles collide with each other?
Sometimes. Sometimes because you can often be the guy demanding a lot. You know, if for instance it's Wednesday and you have to release something in 2 days and you're not satisfied with something, then the Scrum Master might come and say, okay, stop it, we'll rearrange it, sort of. So you have to discuss with the Scrum Master about what to do in a particular scenario, or with the product owner. I mean, they don't really collide. I would say that it's more about friendly discussion always, to agree on things, not to get into a positive conflict and to get to a positive solution. I mean, you can fight all day about things, but you won't really get any far. So I don't really ever argue with people. I do insist on things, but I don't get into sort of shit talking debates like you don't know how to code, or you don't know how to design, you're a bad Scrum Master, you're a bad this and that. I never do that. I just talk to people and we work something out. I don't know if that answers your question, but
Yeah.
yes.
Thanks.
Any other questions?
How much info you get about the audience of the client? Because you need to be the final audience, which is the client audience.
We try to work that out at the very beginning, because actually this is something our designers do. They make up these personas. So they study. You mean the audience of the people that will actually be using the app, right?
Yes.
Yeah. So the designers do more of that work. They talk to the client and they make up these personas, like 4 or 5 different personas: a young person, a middle-aged person, stuff like that. And then we go through it as the QA and try to sort of match what the app is to the people who will be using it during the process. But the definition, on some projects we have no idea, because the client sometimes has no idea. But on other projects this is perfectly well defined, and the designer really laid it out nicely, and then we know who are we working with, so to say. So I mean, we do know it, but sometimes it's a bit ambiguous. But I don't know. You can talk more to the client, or you can just create an app which suits everyone, if that's even possible. You know. Cool. Yeah.
No further questions? I'll take the next debate. Thank you very
Thanks,
much.
guys.
Another applause.
Thanks.